In this next episode of my experiment in simply ad-libbing on a topic that I think is of importance, I want to talk about, this is related to a book I'm hopefully going to write called Smarter or SuperSmart or something, How to Do Life for the Mensa types in the world. Today I want to talk, probably for no more than 10 minutes, about how a super smart person can succeed on the job. Perhaps starting with the obvious. Smart people used to be working mainly solo because they had just too few peers, but because so much of today's new products and services are very complex and requiring teams, maybe the most generalizable advice for the super smart person is to do whatever he or she can to try to get employed by an organization with extraordinarily high standards. Two examples come to mind. I had the privilege of interviewing GE CEO Jack Welch, and I asked him how he felt about being called Neutron Jack, because he always got rid of some of his bottom performers. And he said he feels great about it because he said it's a place for A players, and they're happiest, and the shareholders are happiest, and the buyers of products are happiest when there are only A players. And not every workplace is supposed to be for A players or B players or whatever, but he made that his priority, and he gave me the example. He says when he took over GE, the GE refrigerators were at the bottom of Consumer Reports rankings, and when he left, they were at the top. So that's one example of trying to work in a place that has really just is for A players. And again, not every workplace needs to have them, but if you're a super smart person, that's where you try to want to land. The other example is Steve Jobs at Apple, proudly saying, we are, what differentiates us is our people. We care about beautiful design and whatever, but we have only A players here. Even when he was really cruel and rude to them, his great pride, other than his design instincts and marketing and salesmanship instincts, were that he insisted on only A players. So if you are a super smart person, fight to get to work at a place with similar peers. Today, some of the greatest concentrations of those are at what are sometimes called labs or universities or whatever within corporations. For example, Google has they keep changing what it's called, but it's institute or it's moonshot programs or whatever, fighting to get into there. Microsoft has its lab or whatever, innovation labs or whatever. Those are, of course, those are extremely hard to get into, and you need to be quite brilliant, but I'm trying to focus here on the super brilliant. Now, some people who, either because they're just not quite that smart or not that aggressive or not that well connected or whatever, they're then faced with a choice of working in a more heterogeneous workplace or working solo. And for them, I think it is wise to see if there are ways to work solo. As a self-employed consultant, whatever your field is, a self-employed researcher, inventor, scientist, writer, whatever you are, by working mainly by yourself and then as needed, calling on other equally smart people to be your advisors, give counsel, or work with somebody on a project, may be the best shot for the super smart person to both feel most contributory and not be frustrated. But now let's turn to the fact that most people end up not being able to do any of that. They end up having to work in a much more heterogeneous environment. And no matter how smart you are, unless you know how to work well with lesser lights, you're going to get your ass kicked, because the power of the masses can destroy you. They can say, he's difficult to work with, he's a know-it-all, she insists on her way or the highway. Uh, you know, all those things. The group can really sabotage somebody officially by going to the bosses and or micro examining, because even super smart people make mistakes all the time. But instead of minimizing them as is possible, the masses will make the person pay dearly for his or her mistakes. So it's critical that the bright person, the super smart person, learn how to work, excuse me, with lesser lights. And most common, the best way to do that is to do as much as you can in not showing people up at meetings, but creating your best ideas individually and sending them to the group for input in a tactful way. And these are some of my thoughts about X. I'm wondering what you guys think. That's a great way to do it. And also in meetings, same thing. Certainly, it's a temptation. People who are super smart tend to have idea after idea after idea, and so therefore tend to dominate the meetings. I would urge you to try this technique of not speaking up until the end of a topic discussion, and then saying, I'm wondering, having listened to all of you, Mary made a good point about X and Y. I'm wondering whether also it might be a good idea to do Z. What do you think? If you can restrict your comments to kind of the crowning comment toward the end of a topic discussion on topic A, and then acknowledge the contribution of others, and do that kind of couching where it's not, we should do this, but I'm wondering whether it might be a good idea to do X because of Y. What do you think? That kind of couching can mitigate some of the antipathy that comes from the understandably being threatened by people who are less than. And finally, no matter how smart you are, you're going to make mistakes. The big dilemma you're going to have is, do you own up to your mistakes? I mean, the standard advice is to do that, but what ends up happening is it legitimates, if you apologize for your screw up or your mistakes, there is the risk that it's going to be viewed as legitimating other people's feeling you're not that smart, and that they were right in going after you. On the other hand, if you don't admit you're wrong, you're going to be seen as too stubborn. So the right answer is, it's nuance. It's on a case-by-case situation. Decide when it's when the net benefits to you, to the project, to the other people are best for you apologizing, saying, whoops, screwed that one up, let's move on, versus being quiet, not apologizing, and maybe even sticking to your guns. Although sticking to your guns is usually not such a wise idea if you really did make a mistake. I'm going to keep this short. I think those are my best thoughts about how the super smart person can prevail in the workplace in terms of who he or she chooses to work with and how to respond. Anyway, I thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I always welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I really look forward to your comments. And I, of course, like it if you hit the share button below and share on your social media so that my efforts have greater impact. And I'm always flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.